have Doug Mcarthur with us here today, talking Manitoba music as always. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for taking the time to do the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's I've been following it for quite some time, so I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. Thank you. Really quickly before we get started, I do want to mention our sponsors that we have. So we have our monthly sponsor, Prairie Alchemist, who is returning or has returned, I should say, as a monthly sponsor. They've been a big help to the podcast, big friends of the podcast. And that is a cafe that you can go to in the St. Malo area. So it is 163 St. Malo Road. They're open Tuesdays through Saturdays. Great place for breakfast, lunch, brunch, whatever it is, and great people down there. So I wanted to shout out to them. And then our yearly sponsor as well, CDL. See if I can bring them up on the screen here, but CDL Architecture and Cladding. If you're looking to get into the trades, great place to contact. They're always doing big jobs, all kinds of different work and different trades involved in their projects. So check them out as well. You can check out their website, or if you're looking to get a project done yourself, they're same thing. They're very helpful through the entire process of working on a project from start to finish. So wanted to shout out to them as well. As I said, thank you for taking the time to speak with me here. I know you're a busy guy. Definitely, you got something coming up April 21st. Actually, I wanted to start off with mentioning.
Yeah, I do. I'm opening a show at the Park Theater for a band called Almost Insight. Yeah, so that should be actually wait. No.
Oh
That's
wait, I think it's the
that's
Handsome Daughter
actually
for 21st.
yes, the 21st. Sorry, I just was
No,
thinking
believe
about
I
what's
just
my next
like I
gig.
just said, you're a busy guy. So no
Yeah.
worries.
Anyways, so to answer your question, on the 21st, I am organizing. So I started organizing a series of songwriter showcases at the Handsome Daughter. And on April 21st, it's a Tuesday.
Mhm.
We're having our second round of these shows. I was actually when I organized it, I thought it was just going to kind of be a one-off, but then
Okay,
the venue approached me and was like, "This is a cool idea. People are excited about it. Do you want to do it regularly?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it."
that's awesome. I know you had some great people down there. Off the top of my head, I remember Shea Wolf was down there for the first one, so that's a lot of talent there alone. Who else did you have for the first one, if you remember it?
She was a late addition to fill in
Oh,
for
okay.
someone who was unwell, um, but yeah, at the first one, it was we had we had Daggers, uh,
Okay.
who's a great producer, but also just an incredible like electro pop artist. Um, she and I are working actually on a little project right now. I was just emailing with her right before the show. Um, and Oh my god, I'm totally blanking on who my other guest was. I'll get back to you on that one.
No, that's
Um,
okay. And you said that, or you said that you're putting is that through Sundog Music? Is that yourself then?
yeah. Oh, sorry. The other
No, it's
artist,
okay.
her name is Annika Price.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Annika is a great songwriter. She's also a vocal coach at Living Music Winnipeg.
Oh, cool.
That's how I got to know her actually, is I went to a workshop there.
Nice.
And then I saw she started posting some stuff about her original music, and I was like, "Oh, you should play a show." And she's like, "Oh, well, let me know if there's an opportunity for that." And I'm like, "I'll make it happen." So that's actually kind of the genesis of this series of shows, was that conversation I had with her. Um, Sorry, you were saying.
No, I was just because you had mentioned that you were the one who organized the event. Is that Sundog Music? Is that your company, or is that something that you work with? Or
So that is mine.
okay,
And that's an interesting thing too. So last year I was like applying for some grants and stuff. In order to do that, you have to have like a registered business, and I didn't want to just do like the numbered corporation or whatever. So I thought,
okay,
oh, I should give it a name, and so the name that I came up with is Sundogs Music Manitoba.
awesome.
And it kind of just sat there, just sort of being a thing that I put on forums and where it needs me to put it on there. But then once I had this idea to organize this show, I was like, well, I should just, I should use that name,
Yeah,
and sort of give it a brand that's sort of outside of just me, myself, just doing stuff like that. And so now I'm going to be using that as sort of the umbrella for a bunch of other sort of community organizing that I do
cool.
in music.
Awesome.
So last last couple of years I've been hosting songwriting retreats at my cottage, and
Oh, wow.
so I've hosted 3 or 4 of those now, and still planning on doing some more in the future as well. And so if I'm going to do that in the future, that'll go under the Sundogs umbrella, as well as whatever shows I organize as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, that's again April 21st at Handsome Daughter. The Sundogs Music presents the Songwriter Showcase. You got Trish V down there, I saw David Alpert as well, and Adio is one person who I have heard. I have heard at least one song from Adio, so that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great
What
lineup.
was the first event like, or kind of just briefly describe it for somebody who might be considering going or just was curious about the event?
Well, I have to give credit to the folks at Songsmiths who organized the Nashville, Manitoba, songwriters in the round shows at Kilter Brewing, because the format is basically exactly the same. I just found that worked really well in terms of just having a bunch of people showing off, their songwriting. And so it's a familiar format if you've ever been to Folk Fest and you've seen those workshop type shows where you got a bunch of artists on stage who are taking turns playing songs, and sometimes they play on each other's stuff. I'm kind of hoping to foster a little bit more of that too,
Yeah,
with the but with the first show, yeah, it was great. Like, I had a great turnout for an entirely new thing,
yeah,
which was really exciting. And you know, one of the things that I'm trying to do too is just to bring up people who haven't performed a lot live. So this was actually Annika's first live performance, was that first show.
okay,
Um, and so that was a great feeling, just to have an
yeah,
environment where the pressure's off a little bit because you have a whole bunch of other artists who are on stage with you, and you only got to play one song at a time. And then you can have a little rest. Like, I like, you know, I think that just puts you in a zone where you're
yeah.
not feeling like you're having to support an entire 45-minute set on
Yeah,
your
for
own,
sure. Even
especially
if
if
you
you
have
haven't.
anxiety about it, you can kind of just at least I'll be through it in a couple of
Yeah.
minutes and then it's over. It's not 45 minutes long.
For sure, yeah, and I think going
Yeah,
forward, my aim is to get a mix of experienced performers and people who haven't had as much time on stage, and get them together and sort of see how that chemistry works.
cool. Very cool. That sounds awesome. I definitely, yeah, something I'd want to check out for sure. So I want to go back a little bit to some songs that you released a couple of years ago, Draw the Line and Hermit Face as well. Hermit Face is probably one of my favorite songs I've heard from you. It's a really, really good one. I wanted to ask you kind of where inspiration came from writing that one or how that one came about.
Oh, thank you. It's one of those ones where us like I was just going back into my archives the other day, just organizing some stuff for myself, and I found an early version of that song that was from like 2016. It's been around
Okay.
for a while. That idea, it's evolved over time, but
Mhm.
which is interesting because the sort of content of the song is, like being alone and sort of having this conversation with yourself about whether or not you like to be out and socialize and be with people, or whether it's better for you to stay in and avoid the problems of the world. That is the sort of, that's the kernel of the idea of the song.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so I don't know, like, I had sort of a couple of parts of it that I'd been batting around for a long time. And then that song was actually what kind of kicked off me doing my whole thing as a solo artist. I played
Okay.
in a couple bands before, and those
Hmm.
have both sort of wound down. And then I had a couple of years where I was more just, you know, focusing on other things, being a parent and my career and other parts of life. And I pick up the guitar every once in a while, and I'd sort of been, still writing, but not with any real purpose. And so when I finally just realized, like, why am I denying myself something that really makes me happy? Hermit Phase was the first one where I'm like, okay, this is something. I might as well like give it a shot and try and, put a proper studio recording together this song.
Yeah.
And so I worked with Rusty Robot, previously of The Waking Eyes, Imaginary Cities, an artist that I always really appreciated his songwriting style. And I also thought, like, that I'd heard some other stuff that he'd produced and it was really good. Um, and so, so I mean, I'm sure I'd met him, just offhand at shows or something, but we didn't really know each other. And then I just kind of just sort of yeah, just cold, just sent him my bedroom demo of Hermit Phase. And with stupidly no context, I just sent it to him and he's like, "Hey, cool song, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, do you want to produce it for me?" He's like, "Oh, that's why you sent it to me." Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so he was uh yeah, he was on board, and then we wound up recording that song and Draw the Line together, and it was a great
awesome.
experience. Just the two of us in the studio for most of it, just hammering away at these two songs, and it was great to have someone like that have their influence um, on my stuff because he really
For
did
sure.
bring something interesting to the arrangements. And I mean his performance style is great too. So yeah, that was kind of the genesis of me like releasing stuff as a solo artist.
That's awesome, and that probably is a good experience as well when you've had a song that you wrote kind of a while back and it's changing or you're kind of evolving it, to have somebody come in with a fresh set of ears to kinda help you get the final product out then.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I rewrote half of that song in the
Yeah,
studio as well. Like lyrically, it just didn't really hang together until I was kind of forced to make it work.
awesome. Well,
um,
it shows that a lot of work was put into it, definitely. I could understand, or I could definitely make sense, sorry, that it was written so far back, 'cause it's a very well done song, very polished, definitely.
oh, thank you so much. Um, I mean, it's just one of those things where, yeah, I mean, I, uh, I had a very short idea that wasn't much of anything other than, throwing a couple of chords together, and maybe I had a sort of the the melody on top of it, but
Yeah,
like just didn't. It was very loose and structureless until I was on, yeah, until I was basically already in the studio, and we had to kind of figure out like, well, what is the arrangement of the song, and that kind of forced me into working with Rusty and figuring that out, which is great. Like I do like that kind of pressure,
yeah,
um, and stuff. Yeah, and the only other thing I think like that's come up with Hermit Phase is that some people have commented or have just basically asked me is like they're like, is this like a pandemic song? Because it is so
yeah.
much about just sort of, going off into the woods and being alone. So many people were kind of forced to do that.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
timely topic, but I mean, it was a little more probably timely at that time because, like you just said, people were actually forced to do
yeah,
it, whether they wanted to or
yeah.
not, some people.
Yeah, totally. So that was interesting too, and certainly something on my mind when I was in the studio with it. But I just always find that a little bit funny too, just
Yeah.
because I know that it predates the pandemic by quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always been introverts, right? So,
Yeah,
who wants to
yeah,
be on
that's
their
never
own.
gonna go away.
For Draw the Line, was that, written more recently then, or is that something you had for a while as well?
That one was definitely more recent.
Okay.
It That one's a little fuzzier in terms of how it kind of like when it kind of came together. Um, I had a handful of songs that were kind of ones that were ideas that I was going to bring to my previous band, Soapbox. And I think that may have been one of them that I just
Okay.
started to write while I was still in my old band. And I never took it to them. We never jammed it or anything. There was a couple other ones that we did jam that never wound up making it onto our record. But that one I think kind of started around this sort of time when Soapbox was winding down. But thematically, it really didn't come together until much, much later. Um, because once Rusty and I were kind of off and running in the studio, I was like, oh, I think I want to keep working with him. And so uh, then yeah, once again, it kind of just put me in a pressure cooker of like, I'm gonna finish this song and it's gonna like, it's gonna hang together a little bit better. And um, so it definitely later. I think that one's maybe more of a like that one is probably more of a pandemic song than Hermit Phases.
Okay, yeah. And then another really cool thing about, Draw the Line is that, there was a remix done of it as well. So,
Yeah.
Lana Winterholt had done a remix of that song. Is that something that, was just brought up to you that someone wanted to do that, or
No, I approached her about it.
Okay,
So I've known Lana for a number of years, and actually
okay.
she was the instructor for a songwriting course that I took at the U of M. And so got to know her quite a bit better then when we were, doing in classes once a week for, 6 months or so. And, we would hang out and she'd just be like, "Oh man, I love your song so much." And I was like, "Cool." And so I've always liked the idea of hearing other people's interpretations of other artists' work. And so I was like, "Oh, I should do that myself." And so I know that she had a particular, like, her particular production style is super cool, but also very
Yeah,
different
it's
from
unique,
like,
definitely.
um, you know, from kind of what I would imagine would map to my songwriting style. So I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh, well, that maybe is a fun challenge too." So I
for
approached
sure.
her and she was super into it. And then it really didn't, and it honestly, like, it really didn't take long. And she essentially, like, just built an entirely new track
Yeah,
from the
for sure.
ground up, and then took the vocal track from Draw the Line and completely, like, reframed it around this new track. So it's like I was just as surprised as anyone listening to that for the first time,
That's awesome.
when
Yeah, it's
I
really
took it
cool.
over. It was so cool. And I'm doing it again.
Oh, cool, okay.
Yeah, so not with Lana this time, but I actually, I'm working on a remix of Magic that's gonna be done by Daggers, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's coming down, at some point. She's a very busy person producing
I
and
can
writing
imagine, yeah.
her own music and stuff, and so, but I'm like, I'm not a person who, when it comes to making and releasing music, I I don't really do deadlines. Like,
Yeah, you're
sometimes
not
I do
putting a
them.
time frame on it.
Sometimes it's nice to sort of, give yourself um uh some kind of pressure to finish something, but generally I'm just not really on like a, time crunch when it comes
Yeah,
to when music comes out. So, and that goes for, like, anything I record myself or anything that I'm handing off to someone else. Like, I'm just like, yeah, take your time, just do your best work, however long it takes. Cool, great. So we'll see. Yeah. But I'm really excited to hear what she does with it. And it's the same thing where I just sent her all the stems from the original sort of studio recording of it. And I said, do whatever you want. So it'll
awesome,
be
that's
fun to
really
hear.
cool. Yeah, there's some cool things done with that song. You did, a live performance of that song as well with, sorry, off the top, Fairy Ring Studio, I think, had recorded it, right?
Yeah, that was a thing where I'd been going to these workshops, these, like, marketing workshops Manitoba Music puts on every once in a while, and one of the things that just always comes up is how important it is to have good video to
Yeah,
promote music. And this was before I had finished the studio recording of Magic. I just I
okay.
so but I did want to have some. I just did want to have some video out there to be able um, to promote the music, but then also I just wanted to have something professionally produced so that I could use it to apply for grants and festivals and stuff like that. And so I had seen that it's actually Natalie and Eric from Slow Spirit. It's their like sort of um, side business that they do, as
Okay.
they do these video productions for artists. And so I'd seen a bunch of the stuff that they'd done, and it was really just really nice work, like really
Yeah,
intimate,
very well done, definitely.
great audio production, obviously. And so I was just like, yeah. So I just approached them to do it and met up with them in the dead of winter and went into their little studio. It's a little shed in their backyard that they have all their gear set up in. It's quite nice, actually. And just sat down and performed the song a couple times through, and that's what it was. So once I had that, I realized that the audio is good enough that I could also just sort of throw it onto an EP. Um, and so that's how it kind of wound up on that Draw the Line EP that I released in 2024. And I
That's
always just,
awesome.
I mean, I'm a '90s kid. I always like the
Yeah,
idea of bonus tracks. You
for
know,
sure.
you
Or
get to the
acoustic
end of the
versions or
CD and
whatever it is, yeah.
wait for 15 minutes of silence. It's not quite that, but
No,
yeah, I always sort of just consider it, like, oh, it's like a little different version of a song. I like that a lot.
that's awesome. Then going back to the songwriters that, event that we were mentioning earlier. It sounds like you've done some amazing networking through whether it's taking courses or just attending those kinds of events. Do you have time as well to attend some of the local concerts that are going on in 2026 or even just late last year? Are there any bands that you're kind of watching for, or any bands that you're going out to see these days, or even just listening to, if not from Winnipeg? Sorry.
Um, a bunch actually. I mean, I just saw Ariel Posen at Side
Oh,
Stage
nice. Yeah,
last week. That was an incredible show. Um, and but I mean, yeah, I do kind of. I just really enjoy, basically seeing artists in so many different genres, and um, yeah, when something comes up and I think it's interesting, and if it fits into my schedule, I'm going to show up there. Um, and it's always just a nice feeling to know that that's reciprocated too, because I think that's one of the greatest things about the music scene here in Winnipeg is how strong the community is, and I think a
yeah,
huge component of that is that people show up for you if you show up for them.
yeah. Definitely, it's a very supportive system for sure.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. I know you did some work as well with Riley with Live at the Roslyn. I think you might have even been in on there. I can't remember, but I definitely know you did some work on that as well. I wanted to ask you about some of the times doing that, or how awesome that must have been. I used to be a big fan of that show, or I used to watch that show all the time.
Well, I was kind of more behind the scenes on that
Yeah.
front. They approached me because in my career I work in digital marketing,
Okay.
and they wanted to run some ad campaigns to promote the release of new episodes of the show. And so I met with Riley and his business partner, and yeah, just talked to them about how I can help them out. And then I wound up actually making the website for the Village Idiots as well.
Oh, cool.
Um, but I was never on the show.
You weren't okay.
Um,
I was trying to look back
yeah,
over
I kind of
if
I
you had
was.
been or
I
not.
mean, by the time they brought me in to sort of help them out with all of that advertising stuff, I think it was either the last season or second last season.
Yeah,
And
I
they
remember
booked
you working
they
on
booked,
the
they were
last
booking
one
for
or the
a
last
fair amount
episode.
in
Right?
advance. So,
Yeah.
um, so I never got a chance to be on that show, but it's too bad because I think like one of the things that that I really admired about them is just how driven they were. Like that they would.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a full on passion project for them. They had some sponsors that helped with them acquiring gear so that they could have good video and audio quality for the show and stuff like that. But like generally, I mean, it was just they were just putting sweat into it.
Yeah.
Riley was working full time and then also basically spending every single moment outside of that working on Village Idiot stuff, including the Live at the Roslyn show. So
Yeah.
it's just really admirable when you see somebody just put their whole being into something like that, especially when it comes
For sure.
to the music scene, and it as an artist is completely invaluable to have people like that on your side.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, you just said it, but they did some great work, really good production, really good audio, everything. And you were a
Yeah.
part of that a little bit on the back end. So no, that's awesome. And I was just, it wasn't in person, sorry, but we were chatting on social media, me and Riley, and kind of just saying that he was inspired to do that show kind of by seeing the Revival, Bright Righteous, bands like that seen live. And I
Mhm.
was just mentioning same thing for myself. Literally seeing Bright Righteous is the reason I started going to see local shows more often. So
That's cool.
really
That was a
cool
good
to hear
era.
that. Oh man, yeah, those shows were amazing.
Yeah.
Whether it was West End Cultural Center or wherever it was, those were some really good shows for sure.
Yeah. Well, I just went to see the Liptonians
Oh,
at Park
cool.
Theater last week as well.
Yeah,
They did a, kind of I guess reunion show. Um, which was incredible. They played a set of their own stuff, and then they also played a set of a whole bunch of Wilco
oh, cool.
covers,
That's awesome.
which was just so cool to see that.
That's so cool. I wanted to ask you about a new song that you have coming up, or at least hasn't been released as well, called "The Light." I had seen that you posted that on
Oh
social media,
yeah.
so I was able to take a peek at it. But great song. I wanted to ask you about writing that one, or just maybe
Uh
when that one's coming up.
yeah. I mean I'm still sort of polishing that one up,
Okay.
but it's interesting. Like oh, that one started from actually the first assignment that I got in that songwriting class that I mentioned that Lana was one of the instructors for. So, they're handing us a brief basically to give us the sense of what it's like to, maybe be somebody who goes into a writing session who has to write a song to a specific sort of set of parameters or whatever.
Yeah.
And in this instance, they were like, just write, write like a radio pop song. So, something with a really catchy hook in the chorus and stuff like that. So that was the assignment, and then they just gave us a phrase to to use for inspiration, and it didn't have to make its way into the lyrics or whatever. But the phrase
Mhm.
was the light, and so um, that part in the chorus that just kind of repeats those two words. That's what I came up with on the spot, and then
Okay.
I built it out from there. And then initially, initially lyrically, it was just a different theme, and it just fell flat. It just something
Okay.
about it was just like, oh, I'm trying to tell a story, but it's not personal to me. I was trying to do something sort of outside of my own experience, which can be an interesting writing
Yeah,
exercise,
that's important for sure.
to try and put yourself in someone else's shoes or just tell someone else's story. But it didn't hit.
Yeah.
I couldn't finish the lyrics. They didn't hang together well. And I kind of just put it aside for a while. I was like, well, that's a catchy hook, but nothing's happening there. So I put it aside for a while. And then one day I swear, I was like in the shower or something. And I just had this like epiphany of like, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to be about. And then went back and just rewrote all the lyrics in, I don't know, like half an hour or something like that.
That's cool.
And then, yeah, I mean, um, since then, uh, I think I made a demo of it and then kind of put it aside for a while because I was just working on some other stuff or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, just in the last little while, I've been really focused on just organizing all these demos that I have, so that I can figure out what I'm going to do next when I, book my next sort of round of studio time, whatever that's going to be. And so I was going back through all these song ideas that I have, and that one just hit. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start playing this. So um, yeah, so that's
Cool.
kinda how it came together, and, like, lyrically, um, the song is just about, like, how there are certain leaders of, places in the world that just treat their, citizens like action figures that they can just smash together without remorse, and so that was the sort of genesis of the idea, is just thinking about how, irresponsible and just
Kinda looking at
idiotic.
people like they're expendable kinda thing.
Yeah, that some
Yeah.
people are with a great deal of power and no
Mhm.
responsibility seemingly. So, um, yeah, so that's generally just sort of what it's about, and I wrote it kind
Yeah.
of from the perspective of someone who's trying to justify all their dumb actions.
Cool. Well, it's a great tune. Like I said, people can check that out on social media on any of your accounts, or they can go, I believe, this Friday on the 17th as well and check you out live. Where was it you were playing on Friday?
So on Friday, I'm playing a couple sets of covers and original stuff at
Yeah.
Smitty's Westwood.
Oh, cool.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so uh,
There's a chance to check out the song there then maybe.
yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be playing that one and a couple of other
Cool.
new ones that I've been banging around at Smitty's. And yeah, like I also mentioned earlier, on Saturday the 18th, I'm also playing at the Park Theater, opening for
Yeah.
Almost Insight. And so you'll definitely get a couple chances to hear some new stuff from me
Nice. That's a great
this
venue.
weekend. Yeah,
Great venue. And they got a new audio system in there too the
I
last
know. I'm
month or
really
so.
excited about that.
That's cool.
Um, I don't I was trying to think about this. It's not the first time I've played at the Park Theater, but it's definitely been a while. I think the last time I performed there, like proper like a proper show,
Yeah.
was like 2008.
Oh, wow. So a while
Yeah,
back then for
quite
sure.
some time. I
Yeah.
It's interesting. Actually, there's a weird symmetry there because the show that I'm thinking of in 2008 was my old band Broken Halo, and we were playing a show there that I organized, and it was a fundraiser for Salome Mission. Uh,
Okay.
and the kind of hook of the show was that um, I had a string quartet on stage, and so we did a whole bunch of new arrangements of our songs with a string quartet. And I actually hired Zach Antel. The So if you've ever been to a Jets game, you'll see Mach 10, the live band that they have
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in the arena, and Zach is the keyboard player for that band, and
Oh, cool. Okay.
he also was in a band called Telly. That's how I got to know Zach is from playing shows with Telly, and he's also a very talented composer. And so I can't remember how we connected on that. I think I might have just put up a Facebook post and been like, "Hey, does anybody
Oh,
know how to write for strings?" And he was like, "Yeah, I can do that." So,
apologize, I got an alarm going off over here.
oh, are we running out of time?
Apparently.
Ah, okay. Um, yeah, so he wound up doing the arrangement for a whole like a handful of Broken Halo songs, and then we did that show at the Park Theater. That's the last time I can remember doing like a proper show
Yeah,
there.
cool. Very cool. Sorry about the alarm there, everybody. Luckily it stopped, but yeah, sorry about that. That's really cool. Well, I wanted to wrap things up here. I wanted to ask you about one thing that was off topic. I believe I saw somewhere that you were someone who is a gamer or someone who's into video games. Was I
Yeah,
right
you
about
might
that?
have. I mean, what tipped you off? It's like all my Zelda stuff. Um, Actually, this back here is a Rock Band 3 controller for the
Oh,
Wii.
cool.
And that's actually a recent purchase, and it's not to play Rock Band. I figured out that it has a MIDI port on it, so you can actually just plug it into your interface and use it to control software instruments. So I've
Oh,
been messing
wow.
around with that. It's been pretty fun.
Wow, cool. I didn't know that was possible with that.
Yeah, I saw it in some video on Instagram,
That's
and I was like, I
awesome. I
gotta
think
do it.
Handsome Daughter has I can't remember the date, unfortunately, to plug it, but Handsome Daughter has a show coming up where people just go to play Rock Band on the stage, and they're gonna project the games and everything.
Oh my god, I gotta go to that. That sounds
Right?
awesome.
It's pretty cool. I think it's coming up soon. I have to check what date it is. I can't remember off the top of my head, sorry.
But to answer your question, yeah, I do play a lot of video
Yeah, I
games.
was just gonna ask what kind of games you're into.
Recently, I've been sinking altogether too much time into a game called Power Wash Simulator VR
Oh, I've seen that.
on the Meta Quest 2.
Yeah.
I've had this VR headset for a couple years. I got it as a gift, and the novelty kind of wore off, and I put it aside for a while. And then recently, I don't know why, I just picked it up again, and I forgot that I like bought this game, and it's just so satisfying. It's like
Yeah,
you get the sort of white noise of the
for
water
sure.
sound effects, and then also just the like kind of really satisfying feeling of washing dirt off of things. I'm sure there's like many hundreds of hours of YouTube videos dedicated to that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but for whatever reason, yeah, it's just really sticky, and it's just like such a calming activity. And the way I think of it though is that it's the dadliest dad game that ever dad.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much it's that
it's
or like a lawn mowing simulator, right?
I know, right? And it just sounds so boring, but it actually is pretty fun.
Cool. No, I know
Um,
a lot of people that like games like that. No, that makes sense.
yeah, for sure. And I don't know, like I also put a bunch of time into stuff like Balatro,
Pretty cool.
and bigger, more ambitious things like I sunk many hundreds of hours into Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom back in the day, stuff like that. So I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm all over the map in terms of like whether it's going to be like some casual thing or some like totally crazy involved hundreds of hours RPG thing. I'm
Yeah,
all
for
over it.
sure. I'm like that too, where I've got certain games where I can play them for maybe 20, 30 minutes, and I'll do that in between trying to find out when I can have time for the longer games then definitely.
Yeah, it's tough though because I any amount of time that I put into video games, I'm always just sort of in the back of my head going, you could be working on music stuff. That could be cool.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
gotta
you
have
gotta
a nice
balance it out though.
balance. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you gotta balance it out for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me, Doug. It was a great interview. I'd like to talk to you again, hopefully when you have maybe the light being released or just something coming out, announcement, whatever it is, or just if you have some free time, we can talk again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, always got a bunch of stuff coming up, so I'd be happy to come back.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we will talk to you again soon then, definitely. For anybody watching, if you want to check us out in a couple of days, I have Bunder on Thursday, so that's going to be a great interview at 7 p.m.